I've been color grading in Resolve for at least 6 years now, and I still think I suck at getting skin tones right or spotting small color casts. Now, can you tell me which one of these two images has slightly magenta color cast? Or which one of these has slightly greenish skin tones? Maybe you guessed it right, maybe not, but I still struggle with this every time I balance a shot. If you struggle just like me, I might have a perfect solution for you. Let's jump right in. Hi, I'm a European filmmaker, and in just under 6 years I went from zero to paid music video DP and colorist. Today I'll break down why balancing color feels like guessing for most of us, then I'll share a tool I built together with my friend, fellow creator and colorist Vladislav. We'll walk through how to use it, why it fixes most of the guesswork, and how it's changed the way I balance every shot in DaVinci Resolve. First, let's talk about scopes. Not everyone knows how to use them correctly. Of course, they are quite accurate and reliable, but they don't always tell you everything at a glance. You check the parade and vector scope for balance and skin tones, then over to the waveform and histogram for exposure. And your eyes keep bouncing between the scopes and the image, and every jump pulls you away from what you are actually grading. Skin tones are the worst part. To properly check them, you mask the skin, turn on highlight mode, open the vector scope, and see where the trace lands near the skin tone line. 4 steps every shot. Well, that takes a lot of time and effort. And if you're grading on a single monitor, swapping between scopes is another hassle. I've been working with my friend Vladislav for a while now to bring this cool tool called Nailer to life. It's a DCTL plugin that works alongside your scopes with a set of indicators that sit directly on your picture. Exposure, contrast, balance, saturation, skin tones, neutrals, all of it color-coded right where your eyes already are. You simply drop it on the last node in your node tree after your Rec 709 conversion, or at the timeline level. Turn on the indicator you need, read the image, adjust and move on. When you are done, disable the node, and that's the whole workflow. Sounds simple, and it is, so let me walk you through the features and how I actually use it on every project I grade. One quick thing, DCTLs are custom color tools that run inside Resolve, but they only work in the paid studio version. Installation is very simple, copy-paste it into your LUT folder, restart, and it's done. So let's start with the primaries, the foundation of every single grade: exposure, contrast, balance and saturation. These are the 4 checks I run on every shot first. First up is nail exposure. When you turn it on, it paints the image by brightness levels, so you can instantly see where your shadows, midtones and highlights sit. Just by looking at the picture, you know where every part of the frame lands in terms of exposure. I usually try to keep the midtones of the skin or the main subject in the green zone. Yellow and orange shows your highlights. Magenta shows your shadows. White warns you are nearly clipping, and solid red means you are already overexposed. Same goes for the shadows. Solid magenta means you are clipping the blacks. Just don't fool yourself. If the sky is supposed to be bright, orange and even white in that area is fine. That's how it meant to look. At the bottom of the image, there's a simple guide showing what each color represents. Next logical step is contrast. Turn it on and the image goes monochrome. Now, why monochrome and not just desaturate? Because desaturation still keeps the luminance of each color channel intact. So a red and a green that look equally bright will stay looking equally bright even when the color is gone. True monochrome strips that out and shows you pure luminance. That's how your eye actually reads contrast, light against dark, nothing else. I come from a music world, and honestly this is the same exact thing as checking your mix in mono. You strip away what might be distracting so you can focus on the one thing that matters. If there's at least one sound engineer watching, they'll know what I'm talking about. Honestly, this feature alone isn't anything revolutionary. You can pull it off in the RGB mixer inside Resolve if you want to, but having every check in one place, that's the whole point. You stop hunting for tools and start reading the image. Next up, balance. Remember that magenta color cast image from the beginning of the video? This is how you spot it in a few seconds. Turn on nail balance and the image gets painted in 4 colors: yellow, blue, green and magenta. Those are the dominant color shifts in your frame, just like the 4 quadrants in vectorscope. If there's a cast hiding in your shot, it will show up right on top of the picture. The best way to use this feature is together with the vectorscope. It turns into this X shape and you can clearly see where the image is leaning. There are a couple of ways you can use it. First, the easier way is with a white reference in the frame. A wall, a piece of paper, a white shirt, anything that should be neutral. Look at how the reference is being indicated. If the white wall is painted blue, your image is probably too cool and needs some warmth. If it's painted yellow, it's already warm and needs to cool down. You can adjust it with the HDR wheel, or as I like to do it, with linear gain, until the reference goes clean and your balance is there. But what if there's no neutral reference in the frame? In most cases, you want your image balance spread evenly across all 4 quadrants. And nail balance is still very helpful here. It shows you which colors dominate the frame and which ones are missing. If the image is leaning heavily green and blue, and you see almost no magenta or yellow, that's your cue to push the balance the other way. You are not matching to a reference anymore, you are balancing the overall spread of colors across the image. Of course, if your shot is a close-up of a leaf, the overlay will show green dominance, and that's fine. Just look at your image and think about what makes sense. Should it be spread across all 4 quadrants? Should it be monochrome? Or should it lean toward one color on purpose? That's the call you make as a colorist. Now, let's talk saturation. This feature overlays the image by saturation levels. Low saturation shows up in cooler colors, and the more saturated an area gets, the hotter the indication goes, all the way up to red. But there's the thing, red in the nailer overlay doesn't mean you are clipping saturation. This indicator was built by studying hundreds of movie stills, looking at how saturation actually feels pleasing to the eye on screen. So think of it less as a limit and more as a guide towards cinematic saturation levels. I run this after balance. It's my quick check to see which parts of the frame are punching too hard and which are sitting flat. One quick thing on skin. If the skin is painted red, it's oversaturated for a natural look. You want skin to sit in the green and yellow zones. That's where it reads clean, not dull and not cartoon vibrant. And speaking of skin tones, if you got your balance right in the first place, nail skin tones should overlay your skin in 3 colors: green, orange and magenta. More reddish skin shows up as magenta, more yellowish skin shows up as green, and the sweet spot, the perfect skin tone, shows up as orange, just like the skin tone line in the vectorscope. One important thing to know: nail skin tones only reads hue, not saturation, not exposure, just hue. So you are reading one thing at a time, which is exactly why it works. Now, if you turn this on and nothing gets indicated at all, that's your first red flag. It means your skin is so far off the skin tone region that the tool can't even pick it up. And usually that traces right back to balance. Fix your white balance first, then come back to skin tones to fine-tune. Once your skin is in the ballpark, here's how to read it. If most of the skin is painted green or magenta, that's a genuine hue shift. You can pull it back toward orange using hue versus hue in the curves panel, just nudging the red or yellow hues. But here's where most colorists get it wrong. Real skin isn't a single hue. It's a blend, maybe a bit yellowish in the highlights, more reddish in the cheeks and shadows. That's what makes it look like a person and not some AI slop. You are not trying to paint the whole face orange. You are trying to get the midtones on the line while keeping natural variation in the highlights and shadows. Of course, if you are going for a stylized look, embrace it. Don't let this feature override your vision. Take this still from The Boys, one of my favorite shows. Homelander's face isn't being indicated as a proper skin tone at all, but that's exactly the look the creators were going for. Or maybe it's just because he's Homelander and he doesn't care about the vectorscope either. The neutrals feature, I use it alongside balance and skin tones. When my skin tones are in the ballpark and my blacks are clean, that's usually the best starting point to move on from. Turn on nail neutrals and the indicator paints anything that should be true neutral, pure whites, grays and blacks in a solid color. If your black point is clean, it will light up fully. If your whites are clean, same thing. Anything tinted won't get indicated, which tells you there's color hiding in there. Here's the general rule of thumb. For a natural looking grade, your black point should stay close to pure black, unsaturated, no color tint. A dirty black point is usually what makes a grade feel cheap when you can't quite put a finger on why. But again, that's a guideline, not a law. Plenty of pro grades push color into the blacks on purpose. If you are going for a stylized grade, use nail neutrals as information, not as a target. Same goes for whites. Depending on the look, whites can lean warm, cool, or shift towards any hue you want. That's a creative choice. So that's the core of how I grade every shot with Nailer, but I haven't even touched the features that make it genuinely fast on a single monitor. And that's where it gets really useful. Just stay with me. First, the split views. 2-split does exactly what it sounds like. It splits your viewer down the middle, original on the left, wherever Nailer indicator you've got active on the right. Side by side, full frame, no toggling. Why this matters? You are making adjustments, you can see the original and the indication at the same time, on the same screen. No flipping back and forth between before and after, just watching the indicator shift as you tweak. Then, probably my favorites. 4-split balance and 4-split exposure. 4-split balance divides your viewer into 4 windows: clean image, nail balance, nail neutrals, and nail skin tones all at once. One glance and you know exactly where your shot stands on the 3 things that matters most when balancing. 4-split exposure works the same way but with the exposure side. Clean image, nail exposure, nail contrast, and exposure warning. Same logic, different checks. And if you are on a single monitor, this is generally the feature that changes how fast you can work. And if you got a reference monitor for timeline viewing, even better. Just leave 4-split on and read everything from across the room. Next, the warnings. Exposure warning flags anywhere your image is close to clipping. Red for bright areas pushing towards full white, and magenta for shadows crushing into pure black. Simple, if you see those colors, you are losing detail. Saturation warning does the same thing for saturation. Any area that's pushing too hard gets painted white. Especially useful when you are delivering in Rec. 709. Catches anything that's about to clip outside the legal saturation range before you export. A couple more tools worth mentioning. More of a bonus than essential, but still might be useful. Show Frame Guide drops a composition overlay on your image. 3 options from the dropdown: a thirds grid, a diagonal cross, or center mark. Useful when you are deep in the grade and want to check that your framing still holds on. Show Patch gives you 2 options: middle gray and ramp. Middle gray drops a gray reference patch on your image. Qualify it in curves and you lock in an 80% gray point, so you can push contrast without shifting your exposure. Ramp drops a grayscale strip across the image. Useful when you are doing split toning. You see exactly which brightness levels pick up color and what tones you are introducing. One important thing about Show Patch. These workflows are meant for work you are doing after your Rec. 709 conversion, not inside the DaVinci White Gamut sandwich. Show Patch is for final polish once you are in Rec. 709. And finally, let's quickly go through the settings part of the plugin. You can change the indicator color on nail neutrals: blue, green, or red. Pick whatever reads easiest against your image you are grading. Skin ISO mode is on by default. When you turn on nail skin tones, everything outside the skin region goes monochrome, so the indicator pops against the rest of the frame. If you'd rather see the indicator over the full color image, you can switch it off from the drop-down. Aspect ratio is useful when you have black bars on the image. 7 options that adapt the frame guides and composition overlays to match the shot. There's also a guides toggle that turns the extra guides and titles on or off across any tool that uses them. Small thing worth knowing it's there. Couple of workflow tips I wanted to share. A few ways I use Nailer that go beyond single shots. First, matching clips across a project. When Nailer is running at the timeline level, you can scrub through your timeline and instantly see where one shot leans warmer, where another has greener skin, or where a third has a blue color cast in the blacks. Just image-to-image reading. This is how I keep consistency across music videos or short films. Second, analyzing movie stills. Drop a still from a film you love into your timeline. Throw Nailer on it and you can literally see how the colorist shaped the frame, where they let highlights roll off, how they handled skin tones, what their black points looks like. It's one of the best ways I know to train your eye, especially if you are just starting out. Recently, Blackmagic launched DaVinci Resolve 21 in public beta, and one of the biggest changes is a brand new photo page, which brings the full color toolset over to still images, which means Nailer should work there too, letting you read any photograph the same way you read a video frame. Just keep in mind both Resolve 21 and photo page are still in beta. Things will break, features will change, and I wouldn't run any client work through it yet, but it could be a big deal down the line. One quick thing before we wrap up. Nailer is built for standard DaVinci YRGB workflow. It's not designed to work in a color managed setup. So if that's how your project is configured, the indicators won't read the image correctly. If you want to use Nailer, you should switch to standard YRGB. So that's pretty much the whole thing. The core idea is simple. Stop fighting your scopes, start reading the image. When you can see exposure, balance and skin tones directly on the picture, you grade faster and you make better calls. This tool won't grade it for you, it just shows you what's there. You decide what to do with it. And if you want to learn more about color grading in Resolve, check out this next video. See you in the next one.